Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over sort of a controversial issue here on the channel, but it's spurred by a viewer comment. I got a comment today, and I have many reviews on 92 series pistols, as you guys know, or M9 series pistols. I'm going to use those terms interchangeable throughout the video. And it said, you know, when I was in the military, my M9 was a piece of junk. I can't believe you recommend this thing. Blah, 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 blah. And I get those comments all the time, at least once a week, if not more, because I have a lot of Beretta videos out there, and I am a fan of the pistol design overall. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, a little background on me, I spent 3 years as an armorer in an Army unit that issued and used M9s a lot. I know a lot of units don't use them a lot. We did, and put a lot of rounds through them, and I was the guy working on them or ordering parts or whatever the case may be. So I'm pretty familiar with the gun and the things that go wrong with it, at least in the military. And I'm also pretty familiar with how they, are in the civilian world when you purchase one yourself and you're not issued one in the military. There's a difference there. There's no getting around it. So we're going to get into what those differences are, and then why I come on here and tell you that Berettas are very reliable, when I will also come on here and tell you that I've had M9s issued in the military, or seen M9s issued in the military that weren't reliable at all. So we're going to try to cover that in today's video and try to clarify some of the things that you guys have heard over the years, and put some truth to those rumors, if you will. The number one reason, in my opinion, is insufficient maintenance. And I don't mean cleaning lubrication, which we'll get into here in a little bit. I mean parts replacements. So military pistols see a lot more high round counts, at least in units that use them and issue them, than your standard civilian pistol would. We have pistols, in the military's armory that have gone over like 200,000 rounds on the original frame and slides. So it's a durable gun, but you have to maintain it. And the number one thing that the military doesn't replace on time, in my opinion, is a recoil spring. Recoil spring is hugely important to the operation of the gun. It sets the timing for the slide as it comes back under recoil, picks up the next round, etc. So if that's off, it can cause malfunctions. If the spring's too weak, it can also cause battering of the frame. So if you look at, like, for instance, the Marine Corps' M9A1, they acknowledge apparently that they are not maintaining their recoil springs properly and battering their frames. So what they did is they actually put a buffer in there, and the A1, I think the 92A1 has it as well. So to prevent that, they modify the gun as opposed to just maintaining the gun according to the maintenance schedule, because I think it's an acknowledgement that most folks just don't do it in the military, and that's just kind of how it is. So that's one thing, and that's a huge thing. If your recoil springs off, your timing's off, like I said, it doesn't feed right, doesn't eject right, there's all kinds of issues there. So number one thing, not maintaining the parts in terms of updating them on schedule. Same thing here with the hammer spring. I've seen hammer springs that look like they're from 1986 or whatever, when the guns came in, and they show it. So what that does is it leads to insignificant, or insufficient, I should say, tension on the hammer as it goes down, and leads to light primer strikes. So you'll have guns that don't strike the round properly. You'll have people saying, oh, it's a bad round, or whatever the case may be, when in reality, it's a bad hammer spring. It needs to be replaced, but just isn't. Just behind the springs and stuff not being replaced, the number two reason, in my opinion, that the guns don't run is the magazines. So this here is your new up-to-date standard sand magazine. I believe the Marine Corps is being issued these right now. I don't know. I've heard that. I read that in places. But this one is a vastly superior magazine to this one, which this is the standard magazine, the most popular one out there in the U.S. military's inventory, and this is a Checkmate 15-round mag. Now, why do I say it's bad? It's not that it's bad per se, it's just not good. And when Beretta was speccing these out, or the Army, I should say, was speccing these out, they told Checkmate they want, this dimension, this many rounds, 15, flush fit mag, all this stuff, but a phosphate finish. Checkmate came back, and this is all open source documents, you can look it up. Checkmate came back and protested and said that's probably not the best finish. You want to go with a blued finish or something like that. At least back then, that was a very good finish, was blued, as opposed to the phosphate, because the phosphate will but allow dirt to stick to it, especially when oil gets on there, and that'll cause feeding problems as the rounds try to go through the magazine, and the dirt's stuck there on the sides, if that makes sense. The Army, and well, for whatever reason, I believe the Air Force as well, just ignored them and told them to go ahead and produce it. Checkmate swallowed the lump in their throat, produced them, and this is, like I said, the number one most popular mag in the U.S. military's inventory. There are others out there that have been improved over the years, and like I said, apparently this one's being improved now, which is the new fancy sand mag, which is the exact opposite. So this mag, it sort of allows dirt to get stuck on it. This one here pushes dirt right off it. And this has been adopted after, of course, the wars in the Middle East, and where desert sand is getting and everything. They kind of realized that Checkmate was right when they told them that decades ago, and have since adopted it. Now, one other problem with magazines in the United States military's arsenal is that a lot of them are the exact original ones that were issued with the guns, again, 20 years ago. So the feed lips are spreading, I should say. Springs are worn out from being run over and over again. I've never seen a mag spring get replaced on an M9 mag in my years in the military that I was in. Did not see a single one. So that sort of tells you something there. As opposed to like a lot of folks out there will tell you, you know, you go to an M16 or M4 range in the military, if you have a bad M16 GI mag with a feed lip spread or something like that, people will smash it. It's very commonplace out there in ranges in the military to smash them, so that way it never goes back in the mag pile and never gets used should it need to be used in combat. Never seen that happen again with an M9 mag. People are just like, oh, M9s aren't reliable, and throw the mag back in the pile, and some guy will draw it again in 5 years or 2 months, whatever the case may be, and use it again and have malfunctions and say, oh, M9s aren't reliable, instead of looking at one of the main causes of the malfunctions, which could be this very magazine. In terms of maintenance and training, it's not always the best in the United States military, so here's just a little personal anecdote for you. One day we were getting ready to go to an M9 range, and there was a guy in our unit who was E7, had 18 years in the military, was an infantryman, mind you, and had deployed multiple times with an M9 on his hip. Came up to me and said, hey, how do I lubricate my M9? And I just looked at him and like my mind was blown, and I was like, what do you mean you don't know how to lubricate your M9? He said, I'd just never done it. Shows how important they place the maintenance of these weapons, whereas you'd never, ever in a million years hear an infantryman say that about his M4 or M16. So obviously I showed him how to do it, but that just goes to show that not everybody out there is very well trained in how to do it, nor do they really prioritize it, which, I mean, in some ways makes sense in a time crunched world. If you're going to maintain one thing well, your rifle or your pistol, it's going to be your rifle if you're in the military, because that's your primary weapon for sure. But just keep in mind what that would do to a gun that's been issued for over 20 years. So let's talk about the 20-year thing too, right? Recently, I think the British military adopted the Glock 17. I'm a guy here who's going to come on here and tell you that the Glock 17 is one of the most reliable guns ever made. I absolutely believe that. And the British military, of course, is having good results with them initially. But I predict that in 20 years, you're going to hear guys who are coming through the British military saying these Glock 17s aren't reliable, they're junk, they're rattly, you know, they're having all kinds of malfunctions for the same reasons we've outlined in this video here. Maintenance is paramount with any gun, and the Beretta 92 has done has put up some impressive numbers if you actually study the tests where they've been compared with other guns back to back and side by side through the same conditions. This gun has performed as well as any out there on the planet, and there's only a few that really perform in its class, but you have to maintain them and you have to replace parts and you have to know how to use them like we talked about in this video. So hopefully that answered some of the questions on why you hear the M9 has such a bad rap and why it's not reliable, and you'll hear that and stuff like that from folks who have actually been downrange with them and harm's way with them. But folks like me will come on here and also tell you that they're very reliable, and some of you guys would be confused by that, so I just want to clarify that. Hopefully we shed some light on it, at least in one man's opinion. There's been a lot of opinion in this video. That's okay from time to time in my opinion, but it's also a lot of experience behind it. I've seen a lot of these guns and a lot of things that can go wrong with them as well. So if you guys have any questions or want to share your experiences, by all means, post below in the comment section. We welcome it, and it's open forum for you guys to post down there, whatever happened. I don't care either way. I don't work for Beretta. But if you loved them and you've had great experience, or if you had poor experience, either way, post it down below in the comment section. I'll look forward to reading them. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next video.